Here now, Leland Vittert, NewsNation's chief Washington anchor and host of Unbalanced. I guess hold the phone. This deal is far from over. What do you make first of the battle over credit coming out of Washington?
Donald Trump wants to win. And he kind of doesn't care what the win is. He likes to declare victory. And there's no question that Donald Trump's arm twisting and the thumb screws put to Benjamin Netanyahu by Donald Trump's team is what changed, because it is the same framework we've been talking about for the past 10 months. And we said on the air it was a bad deal for Israel and a bad deal for the United States 10 months ago, and that doesn't change. This is still a bad deal, but I think the takeaway message right now, now almost 24 hours after all the excitement over a ceasefire, as if ceasefire is the end and the goal rather than the presence of justice and perhaps a chance at a better life for the Palestinians, is never underestimate Benjamin Netanyahu. And what I'm seeing, if I'm reading between the lines here correctly, is he gave Donald Trump his win. Everybody got to be excited that there's a deal. And now basically the Israelis are going to blow this deal up by forcing Hamas into not accepting it, or at least sort of come up with these issues for Hamas to bristle at. And then both Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu can blame Hamas here and let this thing fall apart. And then come January 20th, you've got Netanyahu and Trump with the gloves off to go finally end Hamas once and for all.
A lot of people at home may be watching and wondering what this means for the remaining hostages, of which we aren't sure how many are still alive.
Right. We're not sure because Hamas either won't tell us or doesn't know. I think the end point here, as tragic as the deaths of any hostages would be, is at some point, if Hamas learns and if Iran learns that the way to get the Israelis to back down and withdraw essentially from Gaza, which is what this deal calls for, is to keep taking hostages, then more hostages will be taken. And that's what you're seeing, and that is the calculus by the Israelis right now. You could make an argument, and Tom Cotton, hardly a dove when it comes to foreign policy, and certainly a Trump supporter. He said the only deal to be made is unconditional surrender by Hamas and the return of all hostages. And I think there's a real question if, yes, would welcoming home hostages be a wonderful thing, including the Americans? Absolutely. But the option may not be no deal, but a better deal if that, hell to pay that Donald Trump promised would be seen by Hamas and the Iranians.
Part of the details and the specifics of the bad parts of this deal are the Palestinian prisoners that would be set to be released. Who do we know and what do we know about that potential? And is that one of the major sticking points?
Well, let's be clear. These aren't prisoners. These are hardened terrorists. These are people with the blood of Israelis on their hands and people who have vowed to kill again. There's a reason Hamas has been celebrating in the streets for the past 24 hours with their gunmen that hide among civilians. And the Israelis realize that the person who will next plan an attack against Israel is among these prisoners. And they know that because you pointed out in your timeline, Marni, Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, who orchestrated, planned, developed the diversion tactics for October 7th and planned this unprecedented and brutal invasion of Israel and the slaughter of its civilians and the raping of its women, came back to Gaza in a similar deal as what's being proposed right now. So there is real fear among Israelis that if they do not eliminate Hamas once and for all, not only can they not live in peace, but I think we have to recognize the Palestinian people will not be able to live in peace under a Hamas rule.
Well, a lot of big news coming out of that region today. Leland, I know you'll be talking about it throughout the day. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Good to see you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.